Hey everyone, here is an easy and fast Glowforge project that could be a good moneymaker for you if you're just getting started with your Glowforge. I posted this video on my Facebook group, Glowforgers Using Silhouette Studio. Please check that out if you're not a member yet. Also wanted to give a proper shout out to Ashley B, who requested this tutorial because she used my referral code when purchasing her Glowforge. She saved money on the purchase and I got the same in materials. Thank you, Ashley B. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do is go over here and click on this shape. And once you have that selected, just click and drag to create it. And I will say that the size that you want to make your marker is going to kind of be dependent on your project. So this is going to be the basic steps to use and a little bit of information about what's worked for me. And I recommend making one, testing it out in your area and seeing how that works for you, and then coming back to make any adjustments. We have our basic shape here, and for my flower pots, have been making them at about 5 to 7 inches. Sometimes I don't want them to kind of overshadow my flowers, so I might make them a bit smaller. So I'm going to drag this down and make it about 7 inches. And then I liked mine to be about 1 inch wide, but again, I've seen variances on that as well. Usually I see between 1/2 inch to 1 inch or even 2 inches on some. And I'm looking down here and I like mine at about 1 inch, so I'll leave it there. Now the spike that you want to create, you will do that by dragging this red dot up. And for my projects, about 2 to 2.5 inch spike has been working for me. It stays pretty stable in the soil that I'm using. So I'll create that, and I'm figuring out that distance of about 2.5 by looking at my grid pattern here on my mat. If your grid pattern isn't on, I'll show you how to do that real quick. Go over here to the top right hand side and click on this mat, and then click on this grid and make sure that your show grid option is checked. And for the next part, I'll color this in so that we can see what we're doing a bit easier. And you can make it any color you want. And then after that, you'll go over here and create a rectangle. The rectangle is basically going to create the space that we need to do our text. So think of this where your point ends as your soil line, and you probably don't want to create your text box to go all the way down to the soil line, or else your words will be sitting like right on top of the soil. So I'm going to move mine up and do it about 3 inches. So that's about good to me. I'll color this in so we can see how they're overlapping. Now this box again is going to cut out the space we need to make our letters. So I wouldn't recommend putting it all the way down here, or this is going to be pretty flimsy, not a lot of material left. So I like to put it a little bit left of center, and you can fine tune that with your keyboard arrows. This looks good to me. Now I'm going to select both of those, then go over here to my modify panel and subtract. And now we've left the space so that we can type our words. So I'll click on my text box over here and type in what I want. And I recommend using all caps because if you write it in lowercase letters, then you can see that this is leaving letters that are below the baseline of all the other letters, and that will make it difficult. So write it in all caps and then use whatever font you want. I like using a bold one, but I haven't looked through all my millions of fonts to see which one I like the best. We'll just go with this one for this video. And once you have that, go ahead and you can either rotate your words, or I could have rotated my stake over here, but just make sure they're going in the same direction. And I'll color this in also. So now you want to drag your words over here and resize them so that they fit into that space you've created. Now I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see. And Just think about, you don't really want to go over this edge, and if you want to connect to here, you can. I don't like to connect to this part. I think it just gives more definition to my letters if they're all kind of separate. You want this, the bottom of your, in this instance, my pink letters, to just barely overlap with the black area. But you need to make sure that everything is overlapping some. So I have this little bit of overlap there, so that'll be enough good interaction for this. And then I like to make my letters so that they are pretty flush with the side of my stake as well. Once you have all this situated, go ahead and select both of those and right click, hit weld, and there you have it. And once again, I would recommend printing one of these out, going to test it in the area that you want to use it, and if you need to make any changes, come back and do that. Also, I'm going to hit Control Z on my keyboard a few times so that I can get back to this part. A good idea if you're going to be making multiple is that you can go ahead and copy and paste and make several of these. I usually make like a master copy and color it a different color, like red. Red means no, don't use that one, it's your master copy. So that, you know, I can just come to the master and make more and more and more without having to go through the step of cutting this space out again for my words. At this point, I can just make as many copies of my stakes as I need, type out all of the words that I need, and then weld, weld, weld them all together. You could make these out of acrylic, like the ones I showed at the beginning of this video, or you could make them out of wood. If you're planning on selling them, you could probably charge a higher price for the acrylic ones because they are going to last longer. But if you make them out of wood, then it's likely that they're only going to last one season and you would be able to potentially sell more because they would have to be replaced. Find out what the market price is in your area and what your customers' needs are and start from there. Of course, you could always just have fun making things for yourself. Personally, I use mine to mark where my perennial flowers are so that each year I don't toss them out when everything looks dead, so that I remember what container they're in and what flowers I can expect to see in the spring. If you have any questions about this project, of course, leave me a comment below and I'll be happy to help you. Thanks for watching.